ಪ್ರಾತ್ಯಕ್ಷಿಕ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಮನೋವೈದ್ಯರುಗಳು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ಅವರು ನಡೆಸ್ತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಶಾಲೆಗಳು ಆಸ್ಪತ್ರೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಸೇವೆಯನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸ್ತೀವಿ ಎಂಬುದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ತಿಳಿಸಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹಾಗೆ ಇವತ್ತು ಶ್ರೀ ರಮಣ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ ಬ್ಲೈಂಡ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಅಂಧರ ಶಾಲೆ, ರಮಣ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ ಅಂಧರ ಶಾಲೆ ಅವರು ನಡೆಸ್ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇರತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಶ್ರೀಯುತ ಶ್ರೀನಿವಾಸ್ ಅವರು ಹಾಗೂ ಶ್ರೀಯುತ ಗೋಪಾಲ್ ಅವರಿಬ್ಬರೂ ಕೂಡ ಆ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯ ಸಮಗ್ರವಾದ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿಯನ್ನು ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಂಡು ಈ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂತಹ, ಈ ಭೂಮಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಹುಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಸಕಲ ಜೀವರಾಶಿಗಳಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಬದುಕ್ತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಹಕ್ಕಿದೆ. ಯಾರೂ ಕೂಡ ಹಕ್ಕನ್ನು ಕಿತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅವರು ಅಂಧರಾಗಿರಬಹುದು, ಕಿವುಡರಾಗಿರಬಹುದು, ಏನು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ಆಗಿರಬಹುದು. ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಬದುಕ್ತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಹಕ್ಕು ಇದೆ. ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಸಮಗ್ರವಾದ ಅವಕಾಶಗಳನ್ನು ಸಮಾಜ ಕಲ್ಪಿಸಿಕೊಡಬೇಕು. ಸಮಾಜದ ಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿ ಇದೆ. ಅವರು ಅಂಧರು, ಇವರು ಕಿವುಡರು ಅಂತ ಯಾರನ್ನೂ ಕೂಡ ತಿರಸ್ಕಾರ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು. ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಸಮಾಜದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲರ ಹಾಗೆ ಸಮಾಜದ ಒಂದು ಅವಿಭಾಜ್ಯ ಅಂಗವಾಗಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಸೇವೆಯನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಅವಕಾಶವನ್ನು ಸಮಾಜ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿ ಸಮಾಜದ ಮೇಲಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಆ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿಯನ್ನು ತುಂಬ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಅರಿತು ಅವರು ಶ್ರೀನಿವಾಸ್ ಅವರು ಹಾಗೂ ಗೋಪಾಲ್ ಅವರು ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿಯನ್ನು ತುಂಬ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ನಿರ್ವಹಣೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸುಮಾರು ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ಕೂಡ 16,000 ಮಂದಿಗೆ ಇಂಥ ಒಂದು ಉತ್ತಮವಾದ ಸೇವೆಯನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರು ಮಕ್ಕಳುಗಳಿಗೆ ಸಮಗ್ರ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣವನ್ನು ನೀಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅಂಧ ಮಕ್ಕಳುಗಳಿಗೆ ಅವರು ಸಮಾಜದಲ್ಲಿ ಕಣ್ಣಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥವ್ರು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಚಟುವಟಿಕೆಗಳನ್ನು ನಡೆಸ್ತಾರೆ, ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಆಪರೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಗಿರಬಹುದು, ಏನು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ಆಗಿರಬಹುದು, ಅದೆಲ್ಲವನ್ನೂ ಕೂಡ ಆ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಆ ವಿಧವಾಗಿ ಅಂಧರನ್ನು ಸಿದ್ಧಪಡಿಸ್ತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಸೇವೆ ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ಕೂಡ 16,000 ಮಂದಿಗೆ ಅಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸೇವೆಯನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸುಮಾರು 35-40 ವರ್ಷಗಳಿಂದ ಆ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಇಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸೇವೆಯನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸ್ತಾ ಇರತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಾಜ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅಲ್ಲ, ದೇಶದ ಅನೇಕ ಪ್ರಾಂತಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ವಿಧವಾದ ಸೇವೆಯನ್ನು ಅವರು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. 1800 ಹಳ್ಳಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಅವರ ಸೇವೆ ಇರತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. 7 ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸೇವೆಯನ್ನು ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ನಡೆಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇದೊಂದು ಬಹಳ ಉತ್ತಮವಾದ ಸಮಾಜ ಸೇವೆ. ಅದರಿಂದ ಗೋಪಾಲ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ, ಶ್ರೀನಿವಾಸ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಾವೆಷ್ಟು ಅಭಿನಂದನೆಗಳನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸಿದರೂ ಕೂಡ ಅದು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಎಂಬುದಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಭಾವಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಬಹುದು. ಇವತ್ತು ಅಂಧ ಮಕ್ಕಳುಗಳನ್ನೇ ಕೆಲವರನ್ನು ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರಿಂದ ಇಲ್ಲೊಂದು ನಾಟಕವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿಸಿ ಅನಂತರದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣವನ್ನು ಆ ಮಕ್ಕಳುಗಳಿಗೆ ನೀಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಅವರು ಕೂಡ ಸಮಾಜದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲರ ಹಾಗೆ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಚಟುವಟಿಕೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ತಮ್ಮನ್ನು ತೊಡಗಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ಳಬಹುದು ಎಂಬುದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ತಿಳಿಸಿಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅವರು ಕೇವಲ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣವನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಮಕ್ಕಳುಗಳನ್ನು ಹಾಗೆ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬಿಡೋದಲ್ಲ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣವನ್ನು ಹೊಂದಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥವರು ತಮ್ಮ ಜೀವನದ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿಯನ್ನು ತಾವೇ ಹೊತ್ತು ಅದನ್ನು ನಿರ್ವಹಣೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಆ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿಯ ನಿರ್ವಹಣೆಯ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣವನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಈ ವಿಧವಾಗಿ ಅಂಧ ಮಕ್ಕಳುಗಳಿಗೆ ಉಚಿತವಾದ ವಸತಿ, ಉಚಿತವಾದ ಅಶನ ಎಲ್ಲವನ್ನೂ ಕೂಡ ನೀಡಿ ಬಹಳ ಉತ್ತಮವಾದ ಸೇವೆಯನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆ ರಮಣ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ ಆಶ್ರಮದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪದಾಧಿಕಾರಿಗಳು, ಶ್ರೀನಿವಾಸ್ ಅವರು, ಗೋಪಾಲ್ ಅವರು, ಇನ್ನೂ ಬೇಕಾದಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರಿಗೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ನಾನು ನಮ್ಮ ಚಾತುರ್ಮಾಸ್ಯ ಸೇವಾ ಸಮಿತಿ, ಪೂರ್ಣಪ್ರಜ್ಞ ವಿದ್ಯಾಪೀಠ ಪ್ರತಿಷ್ಠಾನ, ಪೇಜಾವರ ಮಠ ಇದರ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಹೃತ್ಪೂರ್ವಕವಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಸ್ವಾಗತ, ಸುಸ್ವಾಗತ. ಅವರು ಈ ಬಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ನಡೆಸಿಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಗಣಪತಿಯ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆಯನ್ನು ಈ ಅಂಧಶಾಲೆಯ ಮಕ್ಕಳುಗಳು ಪ್ರಾರಂಭದಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆಸಿ ಗಣಪತಿಯ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆಯ ಮೂಲಕ ನಿರ್ವಿಘ್ನವಾಗಿ ನಾಟಕ ನಡೆಯುವಂತೆ ಅವರು ಸೂತ್ರಧಾರನ ವಾಕ್ಯವನ್ನು ಪ್ರಾರಂಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
गम्भीरगणनायकं 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 शरणु शृंगार फलदायकं भजामि सन्ततं राजगम्भीरगणनायकं पदा शरणु शृंगार फलदायकं भजामि सन्ततं राजगम्भीरगणनायकं गम्भीरगणनायकं भक्षितं एकदन्तं जम्बू कदली फल भक्षितं एकदन्तं गन्मन्त्रबीजं जगन्मोहनं वर गन्मन्त्रबीजं जगन्मोहनं वर जम्बू कदली फल भक्षितं एकदन्तं गन्मन्त्रबीजं जगन्मोहनं वर जम्बू कदली फल भक्षितं एकदन्तं गन्मन्त्रबीजं जगन्मोहनं वरगामाप दपमगस निसगस सगगामगामाप दपमगस निसगस सगगामगामप मनिपमानिप मपनिस गरिगपनि दपमगरिगमप मनिपमानिप मपनिस गरिगपनि दपमगरिगमप मनि सगगमपद सगसनि पनिस गसनि पनिस सनि पनिस सगसनि पगसनि पमप मगस सगसनि पनिस गसनि पनिस सनि पनिस सगसनि पगसनि पमप मगस सगसनि पनिस गसनि पनिस सनि पनिस सगसनि पगसनि पमप शरणु शृंगार फलदायकं भजामि सन्ततं राजगम्भीरगणनायकं आनन्दभुवन स्थितम् अग्रराज अनिमादिसिद्धिदायकं राजपूजित आनन्दभुवन स्थितम् अग्रराज जनिमादिसिद्धिदायकं राजपूजित नागयज्ञोपवीतदारुणं कामदायिनि पीठवासिनं नागयज्ञोपवीतदारुणं कामदायिनि पीठवासिनं श्रीगुहवल्लि विवाहकारण मूषिकवाहन मोदकहस्तं श्रीगुहवल्लि विवाहकारण मूषिकवाहन मोदकहस्तं नागयज्ञोपवीतदारुणं कामदायिनि पीठवासिनं श्रीगुहवल्लि विवाहकारण मूषिकवाहन मोदकहस्तं रामप दपमगस निसगस सगगामगामप दपमगस निसगस सगगामगामप मनिपमानिप मपनिस गरिगपनिगपमगरिगमप मनिपमानिप मपनिस गरिगपनिगपमगरिगमप मनिसगगममपद सगसनि पनिस गसनि पनिस सनि पनिस सगसनि पगस निपमपप्प मग सगसनि पनिस गसनि पनिस सनि पनिस सगसनि पगस निपमपप्प मग सगसनि पनिस गसनि पनिस सनि पनिस सगसनि पगस निपमपप्प मग सगंधीर कण्णनायकं पादाशरण शृंगार फलदायकं भजामि सन्ततं राजगम्भीर गणनायकं गम्भीर गणनायकं गम्भीर गणनायकं
Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava. This program we started with the Namo Ramana, Matrudevo Bhava, Pitrudevo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava. This program is started with the invocation of Lord Ganesha to show the abilities of the persons who are challenged. Persons with disabilities, they are in no way less than anybody else. They can, when they are trained, they can do anything. They can go to the heights of the mountain. For that purpose, this they are able to do by touch and feel method. They have learned this dance, classical dance, Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi, all those styles. Ramana Maharshi Academy was started during the year 1969 by myself, by my friends, and also with my sister on June 18, 1969, with one visually challenged student. And later on, in a month, it went to 25 students. And in a year, we were able to give service for about 60 students. Gradually, we introduced through innovative method, vocational training, education from kindergarten to 10th standard, and in JP Nagar, third phase. We also provide computer training program, classical dance, dairy training program, horticulture, and also we make arrangements for the students to go for higher studies. Many of our students has done PhDs and also got doctorate and working in many public sectors, corporate sectors, and all those in banks and many places. Apart from this, in Kanakapura, Tirumurti Rural Development Center, we are running agro-based training program for all categories of disabilities. It is speech and hearing, mentally challenged, visually challenged, and physically challenged, autism for all of them. There, we are providing agriculture, horticulture, sericulture, dairy, poultry, fisheries. These training were provided. It is a 2-year diploma course, and afterwards, 1 more year professional course is there for them. Apart from that, for speech and hearing and mentally challenged persons, we are also running a school for them there. And also we are having community-based rehabilitation program in different taluks in Mandya district, Ramana district, and Krishnagiri district. As already explained, we are providing through our various programs for them about 16,000 persons with disabilities, about more than 2,000 villages covering. In this community-based rehabilitation, we provide education, livelihood, and skill training, and also for them social integration. These are provided. We identify the persons with disabilities and provide necessary aids and appliances what is required for them. And further, Mr. Gopalan will explain our programs, what we are doing. Thank you. Namo Ramana.
Namaskara to everybody. I thank you for this opportunity to explain what we do for education of the blind in our Sanstha for the last 52 years, started by my elder brother, whom we reverently call as Master Ji, Sri T. V. Srinivasan, in 1969. I had the fortune of joining and working with him over the last few years. So I will take you through a brief introduction to educating the blind. You can click on the next slide, please. This is a photograph of our school, Sri Ramana Academy for the Blind, with the children attending the morning prayers before start of the school. Next one, please. Next slide. Yeah. Broadly, I will be covering these aspects of today's lecture. One is, how are blind children educated? What are the special features of the blind students' curriculum? A few words about tactile illustrations. What is use of tactile sense? I'll explain this. What constitutes a good education for blind students? In fact, we don't call them blind, we call them visually impaired. What are the pros and cons of the various settings? What educational challenges do these children face, and how can staff help deal with them? And what other issues impact the education of these children, and aids and technology assistance available for these children. Next slide, please. I will also be covering briefly facts about eye donation, tips to protect your vision and major causes for blindness, what is the government support available for blind care, and our academy, Sri Ramana Maharshi Academy's initiatives on care for the blind. Next. So next slide, please. Yeah. Blind children can be educated in various settings. They can either go to a regular classroom in a normal school with other sighted children, or they could be members of, in the same school, a special class or a special school for all differently abled children, or they could be in an exclusive school for the blind like Sri Ramana Maharshi Academy for the blind. The visually impaired students, what are the features of curriculum for them? They have the same academic and developmental goals as sighted students of equal cognitive ability. The basic differences in their education are: one, blind students may require materials in an alternative format such as Braille. Now, Braille is a system of reading and writing in any language. It was invented by a famous gentleman called Louis Braille, and this is followed all over the world by visually impaired children. Or enlarged print and adaptive equipment these days, like talking computer or a magnification device, because many of the visually impaired children are not necessarily totally blind, but they do have limited vision. In addition to normal subjects, they also need to learn special skills like Braille reading and writing, and we give them what is called orientation and mobility training, because when they move around, they should be able to be oriented towards the space, and you might have seen them carrying a white cane along with them, and use of other adaptive technology. So these are the two basic differences in educating the visually impaired children as compared to the normal children. Next slide, please. Tactile illustration. Now, what tactile means is sense of touch. They have a very well developed sense of touch. While Braille books are on this basis, because this is like in a normal paper, they use a stylus to raise by pricking the paper, and these children, but through touch, will know what it is and they can read. It's like a code. So the Braille books are on this basis, but these books do not have illustrations or drawings. And because they don't have drawings, teaching of subjects like mathematics, science, geography, and history becomes difficult. Now, there are technological devices available for tactile illustrations, which I will talk about later. Next one, please. Now, many VI students are partially sighted, as I said earlier, rather than totally blind. Now, the challenge for the educators is to decide on encouraging the child whether to use normal visual sense or whether to use tactile sense. Now, if you see a child putting his head to the table and trying to read, that means he has got partial visual sense. So in such cases, the educator will try to supplement the impaired visual sense with tactile sense. That means they will also use their tactile sense, but also encourage to use the visual sense to the extent possible. Now, if a child does not understand a concept presented, we put an explanatory object in his hands so that he can touch and he can feel it. What constitutes a good education for VI students? Adequate instruction time from a teacher of the blind in specialized skills and tools of blindness. timely access to specialized materials and tools such as braille, enlarged books, tactile maps and adaptive technology, appropriate expectations of success. I will talk about it, what I mean by this later on in terms of constraints. Training of classroom teachers, access to social and extracurricular activities. Like you saw here, we stress on cultural issues. We teach them bhajans, Vedas. We also teach them dance, and our children have gone all over the world performing and winning prizes. Children with multiple disabilities will need, in addition, assistance appropriate to their physical ability, because these are children who have maybe deaf, maybe visual impairment in addition to blindness. So we have to, while taking care of these, also look out at the other aspects of the disability. So we are teachers specialized for this. Now I talked of 3 different settings: a normal school, a special class in a normal school, or a totally dedicated blind school. Now what are the pros and cons? Because many times parents are worried as to which type of setting they should send the child to. Now these are the pros and cons of different settings. And now a regular classroom, the advantages is higher academic standards, extracurricular activities, social opportunities with sighted children, and a real world experience. The disadvantages are inadequate availability of specialized materials, because many of the inclusive schools have less than 10% of visually impaired children, so they won't have enough materials for them. Inadequate instruction time or attention, because the teacher will cater to the bulk of the class and these children will tend to get ignored. Barriers to social interaction with sighted classmates. When they are interacting with their sighted classmates, many times they have barriers and which the other children will not understand. Now, if you put them in special classes or special schools, advantage is smaller classes, more individual attention, and you can draw what is called individualized education plan. The disadvantage is, again, difficulty in getting materials, inadequate instruction time from a teacher of the blind. Next one, please. Whereas when you go for a totally dedicated school for the blind, like our academy, advantages is good access to specialized teachers and materials. It offers social opportunities with other visually impaired classmates. Disadvantages is academic opportunities are not at par with regular schools many times. We in our academy are trying to bridge this and raise the standards to the level of a normal school. But often, because most of the blind schools do not educate them on maths and science and computer science, they fall below. But in our school, we are the first school to introduce maths and science, and now also computer science. We are providing laptops for the high school children and teaching them computer skills as well. Limits experience in getting along in the sighted world. They are in a protected environment, so their experience in dealing with the sighted people is less, and therefore it limits their experience. In order to attend, in fact most of the children may have to live away from home. We are a totally residential school. These children stay with us. We give them accommodation, food, uniform, books, everything, and of course everything is free of cost, and we teach them in addition other things. So the placement decisions on which type of setting has to be made on an individual basis. The families have to take into account these pros and cons of the 3 different settings and accordingly decide what kind of school they want to send their child to. Now, the challenges faced by blind children and school staff and the help that need to be provided by the school staff. Assuming children have access to specialized materials and teachers, they face 2 significant challenges. One is low expectations. Assuming the children have access to specialized materials, they face 2 significant challenges. One is low expectations, I was mentioning earlier, from the sighted people. Now, that means the people surrounding them, be it their parents, be it their teachers, the school administrators, they all approach these children with low expectations. That leads to a low-level classes, decisions being made on their behalf with low expectations of achievement. Very often we tend to assume that these children are not capable of doing what other normal children can. Actually, it's completely wrong, because while God might have denied them of visual sight, but they have the same intellectual ability as normal children are. And when teachers and administrators approach them with a low expectation, typically saying they cannot do this, they cannot do that, that is wrong, we in our academy encourage them to do everything that a normal child does. So this is the second challenge, and this leads to derailing of the education process. Because in a classroom, the teacher, when he's teaching, if he approaches with this attitude, then it leads to a derailment of the educational process. What are the barriers to social interaction? One, the second challenge is barrier to social interaction. Making friends and having normal social interactions is not easy. Two, they lack social opportunity or experience. They lack in social skills, and they face social bias. Very often, the tendency is to either approach them with too much of sympathy or too much of disdain. Neither of this is good. And we do not encourage sympathizing with them because they are normal children and they can stand on their own feet. Next one, please. How the staff can help in facing challenges. As far as the challenge of low expectation is concerned, staff to create an atmosphere of opportunity by inviting active, competent blind adults or alumni for interaction. Many of our alumni have performed, as Mr. Srinivasan said earlier, our alumni have performed extremely well. They have gone on to become entrepreneurs, they have set up other schools, they have reached senior levels in banks and government departments. So when our children meet the alumni, then that creates a very positive feeling in them. Adopting positive attitudes about blindness, acquiring good training, and encouraging independence and full participation in various activities. In fact, the concept of cricket for blind children started in our school. So now there are blind cricket tournaments at world levels with special balls which make sound, and they can hear the sound and they can hit the ball. So these kind of things help in them overcoming those kind of low expectations. Now the other challenge is barriers to social interaction. So the staff can help by fostering an atmosphere of friendliness, respect, and acceptance during all activities. They have all the necessary materials prepared in advance so that the student can fully participate in all activities. 3, when conducting group activities, help the blind student become part of a group and facilitate the child's participation if he or she needs such assistance. Other issues that impact the education of the blind children: selection of a reading medium. For a normal child, it's automatic. He can read from a book, he can read from a paper, he can read from computers, he can read from a board or wherever it is. Whereas for these children, the reading medium itself is a challenge. So what is happening is, due to low level of braille literacy, students are unable to keep up with studies, take notes in a class, handle a lot of information, and complete advanced classes like algebra and mathematics. This affects their career. This is an issue that impacts. Shortage of specialized teachers for the blind. Shortage of braille books, very often leading to start of academic year without books being available. There are not enough books in braille. The above challenges require teamwork and cooperation among administrators, classroom teachers, and teachers of blind and parents. Now, in order to address these issues, there are now aids and technological assistance available. Now, the aids and assisted technologies are for primarily covering 3 areas. 1, devices that assist in teaching braille. I had talked earlier about low level of braille literacy, because in a normal braille teaching, it has been one-to-one between one teacher and one child. So if in a classroom of 15 children are there, it's difficult for the instructor to teach each of the child within a given period. And plus there are limitations in terms of availability of braille teachers. So now there are devices that assist in teaching braille, electronic devices. Second, devices that assist in access to wider educational resources without the constraints of visual impairment. I was talking about the medium earlier. Now there are devices which overcome this, which I will explain briefly. And thirdly, orientation and mobility assistance. As against a normal white cane earlier, now there are other technologies available for them to move and find their way. Now, as far as the first, teaching braille, is concerned, one of the recent equipment available is Annie Braille, which has increased the coverage and speed of teaching braille It's like a lab with 10 connections, and one teacher can simultaneously teach 10 children on Braille, and they can be monitored also in a control screen. Secondly, on the devices to assist wider educational resources, devices like Braille embosser, PIF tactile design drawing maker, etc. Now, a Braille embosser is like a printer, a normal material which you can type and will print it out in a Braille form. So class notes can be given in a Braille form. It has also got a software which it enables it to translate it to any language like Kannada, Hindi, Tamil, or whatever you want. So many of the major Indian languages are covered in this. Sorry, sir? In Braille itself. In Braille itself, yes. It has got a built-in translator. Then there is a device like PIAF tactile design drawing maker. Now, supposing when you teach for a normal child science, say let's assume we are teaching human body, you can show them a drawing showing what is a hand, what is a foot, and all that, or the parts, heart, liver, etc. Now, this equipment will convert the drawing into an embossed sheet, so that now they can touch and feel the different parts of the body. Similarly, if you're talking of mathematics or geometry, again, this PIAF tactile design drawing maker, we can take anything from internet, we can feed it into this. There are special papers used in this equipment, and that will produce a sheet which by touching they will be able to feel the drawing. That is a PIAF tactile design drawing maker. Now, all these have helped in learning science, maths, etc., and also giving notes to students. Now, as far as orientation mobility, there are devices like smart cane which are very useful, because these, instead of just a normal cane, they have got special signals. It will vibrate when an obstacle comes near. It can also improve the reach of the cane. So many more such devices and technologies are under development. In fact, Bangalore itself, there are startup companies. One of the companies have developed an equipment where you can just put a normal book there. It will read the book in voice. So the child can just keep it and flip the pages and read the entire book by keeping it on the machine. In fact, one such equipment has been sent to us for our assessment because it's in the process of development, and we are helping the startup which is doing this. So a lot have come in the area of educating the visually impaired children. Lot of technologies, IITs are developing technologies on this. IIT Madras has developed some technology. They are in touch with us to see whether we could help them in the development. And this is in brief I have given you on the education side. Now I'll cover a little about other important social topics like eye donation. Eyes, these are some important facts. Eyes can be donated only after the donor's death. Only the outermost thin layer, called the corneal layer, is used for fixing the blindness in corneally blind people. Eyes have to be collected within 4 to 6 hours of the death of the person. So it is essential to contact the eye bank immediately. The act of eye donation is free of cost. By law, it is illegal to sell or buy the eye. Eyes can be donated by anyone irrespective of age, sex, or blood group. Even eyes affected by short or long-sightedness or eyes which have undergone cataract surgery are eligible for donation, as cornea is not affected by these problems. However, one has to be careful. Patients having AIDS, hepatitis B and C, rabies, septicemia, leukemia, tetanus, cholera, meningitis, or encephalitis are not eligible for donating their eyes. There is no one of the common worries, especially from a religious and cultural point of view, is there should be no disfigurement of the body. Now, there is absolutely no disfigurement of the face of the donor after the eyes are extracted. Next slide, please. Now, some of the tips to protect your vision and major causes for blindness. Eating well is very important. To eat green and leafy vegetables, bright yellow and orange vegetables that are rich in vitamin A, like carrots and sweet potatoes, and fruits like strawberries, oranges, and mangoes, which are rich in vitamin C. These are recommended. Comprehensive eye exams regularly is a must. Up to the age of 40, unless you have a problem, you don't go. But at 40, a baseline exam is important. Now, between 40 to the age of 55, an eye exam every 2 to 4 years is recommended. Between 55 to 64, every 1 to 3 years it is recommended. At the age of 65 and up, an eye exam every year is strongly recommended. Smoking can cause eye problems later. Protect your eyes from sun using sunscreen around your eyes and sunglasses. Long work on computer leads to dry eyes, and that leads to problem. Controlling diabetes, it is one of the top causes of blindness. Cataracts are common, but treatment is very effective, and nowadays it is not a cause for worry. Damage to the eye's optic nerve causes glaucoma, which if untreated leads to blindness, and glaucoma invariably is caused by either high blood pressure or diabetes. So by controlling that, it will not happen unless there is something called primary glaucoma, which happens if it is in a history of family history of thing. Even there, the doctors advise that if you have a family history, go to the doctor immediately, because glaucoma, if detected in the initial stages, can be cured, can be controlled. Your eyes, most important is an eye examination leads to a lot of information about your general health. By examining the eyes, the doctor can easily, the ophthalmologist can say many things about your other parts of the body. Even if you don't know you're diabetic, the eye will reveal that you're diabetic. Now, government support available for blind care. Government support is in general for differently abled or disabled people, not specifically for blind care. Both central and state governments provide a lot of support. However, these are for all types of disabilities. These are mostly pension and livelihood support schemes. Like in panchayats, there is a certain percentage of the funds collected which are meant for giving to the disabled people to set up their own petty shops or any kind of small home-based businesses. In fact, one of the activities we undertake is we have what is called community-based rehabilitation in the taluks of, especially in Mandya district, taluks of Maddur, Malavalli and KRPet, and also in Channapatna. We have our extension centers with our staff, and we directly approach all the disabled people, not just blind, but any kind of disability, in their homes and provide them support in many aspects, both in terms of giving them aids and appliances like walkers, crutches, wheelchairs and all, giving them support for medical treatment, giving them livelihood support, educational support, and most importantly, we conduct programs in schools and colleges on awareness programs, social awareness, not only to prevent disability, but also how to treat a disabled person, because many of our rural areas, disabled persons are treated with a lot of disdain. For example, if you take of leprosy, a fully recovered leprosy patient will not transmit it to anybody else, but he will have disfigurement in the body, so people don't even want to look at him, don't even want to touch him. So we try to remove these things by conducting programs in schools and colleges. And so all these pension and livelihood support schemes, we help them in getting what is due to them. In Karnataka, those having disability certificates also get free bus passes for travel within the state. Our own initiatives, Masterji had mentioned in the beginning itself what we do, but just in brief, Sri Ramana Maharshi Academy for the Blind is a pioneer in the field of service to the blind. We are a 52-year-old organization having a completely free residential school, offering classes 1 to 10 under Karnataka State Board of Education. We further support our children when they pass out of our school to higher level of education by providing them free accommodation and food, and also subsidizing their college fees. We are one of the first to provide vocational training and employment opportunities. In fact, all our children have to compulsorily attend. We have a workshop where we manufacture cardboard corrugated boxes, which is picked up by industry from us, and they are trained in that area so that they get a very good sense of space, noise and distance, and also a typical factory atmosphere. We also provide them training in our goshalas, where they are trained to look after the cows, wash them, feed them, milk them, and do all these things, both here and in our other campus in Haravalli, where we are looking after intellectually disabled children also. That is the expansion from visually impaired Masterji set up the next campus in Haroali for intellectually disabled, mentally retarded children, and then the community-based rehabilitation in the taluks. So all this is meant for them. We also give them vocational training in horticulture, sericulture, and agriculture. In fact, we are probably the only school which gives vocational training in addition to normal classroom training. In addition to the school for the blind, as I said, we extend our services in the taluks of Channapatna, Kayapet, Maddur, Malavali, and Denkanikote, which is on the Tamil Nadu side of the border near Hosur, providing home-based care for the disabled, including the visually impaired persons. Thank you. That's
ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಫ್ರೀಯಾಗಿ ನೀವು ಅಕಮಡೇಷನ್ನು ವಿದ್ಯೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನೀಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಆರ್ಥಿಕ ಸಹಾಯ ಯಾವ ಮೂಲದಿಂದ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ?
Masterji, can you answer that, please?
We are able to sufficient donations, and also we have got our own income generation activities. Through that we are able to manage. It's balancing both income and expenditure. Now we are not facing any much problem because of our long service, and also people has come to know what we are doing. In that way, ನಮಗೆ ಯಾವ ವಿಧವಾದ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ತೊಂದರೆಗಳಿಲ್ಲ.
ಈ ದೃಷ್ಟಿ ಇಲ್ಲದವರಿಗೆ ಇವಾಗ ಹೊಸದಾಗಿ ಕಣ್ಣಿನ ಒಳಗೇನೆ ಒಂದು ಕೆಮರಾ ಇಟ್ಟು ಅಂಥದ್ದೊಂದು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ದು ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬಲ್ಲಿ, ಅಂಥದ್ದು ಇದೆಯಾ? ದೃಷ್ಟಿ ಕಣ್ಣ ದೃಷ್ಟಿ ಬದಲಾಗಿ ಸಣ್ಣ ಒಂದು ಕೆಮರಾವನ್ನೇ ಕಣ್ಣಿನೊಳಗೆ ಇಟ್ಟು
ಅದನ್ನೇ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ ಇವಾಗ ಮೈಕ್ರೋ ಇದಂತ ರೆಡಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಕೆಲವು ಕಡೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೂ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸುಮಾರು ಒಂದು 70% ಸಕ್ಸಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆಯಂತೆ. ಅದು ಇನ್ನು ಜನಗಳಿಗೆ ಬರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ದಿವಸ ಹೋಗಬೇಕು.
ಶ್ರೀಯುತ ಗೋಪಾಲ್ ಹಾಗೂ ಶ್ರೀನಿವಾಸನ್ ಅವರು ಇವತ್ತು ಸಮಾಜಕ್ಕೊಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಸೇವೆಯನ್ನು ನೀಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಒಬ್ಬರಲ್ಲ ಇಬ್ಬರಲ್ಲ, ಸುಮಾರು ಈಗ ತನವರು ಅಂದಂತೆ 60,000 ಮಂದಿಗೆ ಅವರ ಬದುಕಿಗೆ ಬೆಳಕಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇದು ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯ ಸಾಧನೆ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಕಣ್ಣಿಲ್ಲ ಎಂಬ ಒಂದೇ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಅನೇಕ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ತಮ್ಮ ಬದುಕೇ ಮುಗಿದು ಹೋಯಿತು ಅನ್ನೋ ಹೊತ್ತಿಗೆ ಸಮಾಜದಲ್ಲಿ ಇತರ ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯರಂತೆ ಅವರೂ ಬದುಕನ್ನು ಸಾಗಿಸಬಲ್ಲರು, ಇತರರಂತೆ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ಮಿಗಿಲಾಗಿರತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಸಾಮರ್ಥ್ಯ ಅವರಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ಆ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಮನದಟ್ಟು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟು ಸಮಾಜದಲ್ಲಿ ಅನೇಕ ಮಂದಿ ಯುವತಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಉತ್ತಮವಾದ ಬದುಕನ್ನು ಸಾಗಿಸೋದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ಈ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಗೆ ನಾವು ಸುಮಾರು 18 ವರ್ಷಗಳ ಹಿಂದೆ ಒಮ್ಮೆ ಭೇಟಿಯನ್ನು ನೀಡಿದ್ದೆವು. ಅವರು ಇವತ್ತು ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ಚಟುವಟಿಕೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದ್ದಾವೆ ಅಂತ ತಿಳಿಸಿದಾರೆ, ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಕಣ್ಣಾರೆ ಕಂಡುಬಂದವರು ಇವತ್ತು ಸಮಾಜದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೀಗೆ ಸೇವೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡುವವರ ಸಂಖ್ಯೆ ಕಡಿಮೆಯಾಗ್ತಾ ಇರೋ ಹೊತ್ತಿಗೆ, ಇವತ್ತು ಹಿಂದೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮನಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಹೀಗಿತ್ತು, ವಸುಧೈವ ಕುಟುಂಬಕಂ, ವಸುಧೈವ ಕುಟುಂಬಕಂ. ನಮ್ಮ ಕುಟುಂಬ ಯಾವುದು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಈ ಭೂಮಂಡಲವೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಕುಟುಂಬ ಅನ್ನುವ ಭಾವನೆ ಇತ್ತು. ಊರಿಂದೂರಿಗೆ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಷನ್ ತುಂಬ ದೂರ ಇತ್ತು. ಇವತ್ತು ಆಧುನಿಕ ಯುಗದಲ್ಲಿ, ಈ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಯುಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಜಗತ್ತು ತುಂಬ ಕಿರಿದಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಮಾತಾಡೋದನ್ನು ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ಆದರೆ ಇವತ್ತು ಜಗತ್ತು ಎಷ್ಟು ಕಿರಿದಾಗಿದೆಯೋ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯ ಚಿಂತನೆ ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಕಿರಿದಾಗಿ ಹೋಗಿದೆ. ವಸುಧೈವ ಕುಟುಂಬಕಂ ಇದ್ದದ್ದು ನಾವು ನಮ್ಮ ಕುಟುಂಬ ಅಂತ ಬಂತು, ಅದೂ ಹೋಯಿತು. ತಂದೆ ತಾಯಂದಿರನ್ನೂ ಮನೆಯಿಂದ ಹೊರಗಿಟ್ಟರು, ನಾವು ಗಂಡ ಹೆಂಡತಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಕ್ಕಳು. ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಮತ್ತೆ ಪುನಃ ನಾವಿಬ್ಬರು ನಮಗಿಬ್ಬರು, ಅದೂ ಹೋಯಿತು. ನಾವಿಬ್ಬರು ನಮಗೊಬ್ಬರು ಅಂತ ಬಂತು. ಕೊನೆ ಅದೂ ಹೋಗಿ ನಾವಿಬ್ಬರು ನಾವಿಬ್ಬರೇ ಅಂತ ಬಂತು. ಕಾಲಘಟ್ಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಅದೂ ಹೋಗಿ ನಾನು ನಾನೇ ನೀನು ನೀನೇ ಅನ್ನೋ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಚಿಂತನೆ ಅದು ಸಂಕುಚಿತಗೊಂಡಿರುವ ಈ ಹೊತ್ತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಇವತ್ತು ವಿಶೇಷವಾಗಿ ಈರುವರು ಮಹನೀಯರು, ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಾಚೀನರು ಹೇಗೆ ವಸುಧೈವ ಕುಟುಂಬಕಂ ಅನ್ನತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಚಿಂತನೆಯನ್ನು ಮುಂದಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರು, ಅದನ್ನು ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಪರಿಪಾಲಿಸಿಕೊಂಡು ಬರೋದನ್ನು ಕಂಡರೆ ತುಂಬ ಅವರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೆಮ್ಮೆ ಎನಿಸತ್ತೆ. ವೇದದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಮಾತಿದೆ, ಏನಕೇನ ಪ್ರಕಾರೇಣ ಕೋಹಿ ನಾಮ ನ ಜೀವತಿ ಪರೇಶಾಂ ಉಪಕಾರಾರ್ಥಂ ಯಜ್ಜೀವತಿ ಸಜೀವತಿ. ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಬಗೆಯಿಂದ ಅವರವರ ಹೊಟ್ಟೆಯನ್ನು ಹೊರೆದುಕೊಂಡು ಬದುಕೋದು, ಯಾರು ಬದುಕೋದಿಲ್ಲ? ಸಮಸ್ತ ಪ್ರಾಣಿ ಪಶು ಪಕ್ಷಿ ಕ್ರಿಮಿಕೀಟಗಳು ಕೂಡ ತಮ್ಮ ಹೊಟ್ಟೆಯನ್ನು ಹೊರೆದುಕೊಂಡು ಅವು ಬಾಳ್ತಾವೆ. ಒಬ್ಬ ಮಾನವನು ಕೂಡ ಹಾಗೆ ಬದುಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಅದು ಬದುಕಲ್ಲ. ಪರೇಶಾಂ ಉಪಕಾರಾರ್ಥಂ ಯಜ್ಜೀವತಿ ಸಜೀವತಿ. ಯಾರ ಬದುಕಿನಿಂದ ಸಮಾಜದಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನೂ 10 ಮಂದಿ ಬದುಕುವಂತಾಗತ್ತೆ, ಅವನ ಬದುಕೇ ಬದುಕು. ಇವತ್ತು ಈರುವರು ಮಹನೀಯರು ಶ್ರೀಯುತ ಗೋಪಾಲ್ ಹಾಗೂ ಶ್ರೀಯುತ ಶ್ರೀನಿವಾಸನವರು, ಪ್ರಾಯಶಃ ಸಹೋದರವರಿಬ್ಬರು ಹೀಗೆ ಸಮಾಜವನ್ನೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಕುಟುಂಬ ಅಂತ ಅಪ್ಪಿಕೊಂಡು ತಮ್ಮ ಮನೆಯ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ತಂದೆ ತಾಯಿಂದರು ಏನು ಮಾಡೋದು ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲವೋ ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ಮುಗಿಲಾಗಿ ನಾಡಿನ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗಿಂತಹ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಸೇವೆಯನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸ್ತಾ ಇರೋದನ್ನು ಕಂಡಾಗ ನಾವು ತುಂಬ ಹೆಮ್ಮೆ ಪಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ಶ್ರೀಕೃಷ್ಣನ ಅನುಗ್ರಹ ಶ್ರೀರಕ್ಷೆ ಅವರು ಇರುವರ ಮೇಲೆ, ಅವರು ಕಟ್ಟಿ ಬೆಳೆಸ್ತಾ ಇರುವ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯ ಮೇಲೆ ಒಬ್ಬ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ನಾವು ಹರಸಬಹುದು. ಶತಂಜೀವ ಶರದಃ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿಕೊಂಡು ವಯಸ್ಸು ಏರ್ತಾ ಹೋದಂತೆ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯ ಬದುಕಿನ ಆ ಆಯುಷ್ಯ ಕ್ಷೀಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆದರೆ ಒಂದು ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯ ವಿಚಾರವಾಗಿ ಹಾಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ದೃಢವಾಗಿ ಬೇರೂರಿ ನಿಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಆಚಂದ್ರಾರ್ಕವಾಗಿ ಬೆಳೆಯೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಇದೆ. ಈ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಹಾಗೆ ಬೆಳೆದು ಸಮಾಜದ ಎಲ್ಲ ವರ್ಗದ ಇಂತಹ ಅಂಧ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಇವತ್ತವರ ಸೇವಾ ವ್ಯಾಪ್ತಿ ಕೇವಲ ಅಂಧರಿಗಿಂತ ಉಳಿದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದರು ಇನ್ನೂ ಅದು ವಿಶಾಲವಾಗಿ ವ್ಯಾಪಿಸಿದೆ. ಸಮಾಜವನ್ನು ಕೈ ಹಿಡಿದು ಮುನ್ನಡೆಸುವಂತಹ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿಯನ್ನು ಹೊತ್ತಿರತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಈರುವರಿಗೂ, ಅವರು ಕಟ್ಟಿ ಬೆಳೆಸಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಈ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಗೂ, ಆ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ದುಡಿತಾ ಇರತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅಧ್ಯಾಪಕ ವರ್ಗದವರಿಗೂ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣವನ್ನು ಪಡೀತಾ ಇರತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಎಲ್ಲ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಿಗೂ ಕೃಷ್ಣನ ಅನುಗ್ರಹವನ್ನು ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಒಳಿತಾಗಲಿ. ಕೃಷ್ಣಾರ್ಪಣ.
I request Gopal and Srinivas to take Patrakshica by the Swamiji. ಅಂಧ ಶಾಲೆ ಶ್ರೀನಿವಾಸ್ ಅವರು ಗೋಪಾಲ್ ಅವರು ನಡೆಸ್ತಾ ಇರತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ. ಆ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಿಗೋಸ್ಕರವಾಗಿ, ಅದು ಅಂಧ ಮಕ್ಕಳುಗಳಿಗೋಸ್ಕರವಾಗಿ ಅವರ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ, ಅವರ ತ್ಯಾಗ ಅದು ತುಂಬ ಅಭಿನಂದನೀಯವಾದದ್ದು. ಆ ಶಾಲೆಯ ಮಕ್ಕಳುಗಳು ಇವತ್ತು ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರ ಮಟ್ಟದಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆಯತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಕ್ರಿಕೆಟ್ ಟೂರ್ನಮೆಂಟಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ ಒಂದು ಕಲ್ಪನೆಯೇ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಬರಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಆ ವಿಧವಾದ ಸಾಧನೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಾವೆಷ್ಟು ಅಭಿನಂದನೆಗಳನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸಿದರೂ ಕೂಡ ಸಾಲದು. ಆ ಮಕ್ಕಳುಗಳು ಬಂದು ಅವರೆಲ್ಲ ಬಂದು ಫಲಮಂತ್ರಾಕ್ಷತೆಯನ್ನು ಸ್ವೀಕಾರ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಬರಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ತೊಂದರೆ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಗಳೇ ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ಹೊಟ್ಟೋದ್ರು ಫೋಟೋ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತಂದು